Thanks to those joining me live and to those that be joining me on archive. D-Style Boxing here. Shout out to everyone listening on the 8CP network, whether it's Spotify, iHeart, Amazon Music, the whole nine. I'm being joined by Maestro A from Maestro A here on YouTube. Check out a show Mano Mano every Monday. That is 6 p.m. Eastern Time. Joe Habib from Ringside Reporter. See the banner right above him as he raises his fist. Shout out to him. Check out Ringside Reporter every single Sunday, 6 p.m. Eastern Time as well. And we also have Ohio Runs Boxing.
O-H-I-O.
There we go. That was Beep's Cuba. Beep. It was his idea, and he wasn't ready for the cue. But shout out to Ohio Runs Boxing. You guys know where to find them. It's Ohio Runs Boxing. You know what I mean? Catch him on Instagram, and I don't see you active Facebook. On Twitter, but you're on there. Facebook, there you go.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, cool. And, of course, perfect. And, of course, we're also joined by Lee Groves, the one and the only. How's it going, brother?
I'm doing well. You can find me on Fight.tv in this corner of the podcast with host James Smitty Smith. Find me on Twitter. Find me at Ring Magazine, ringtv.com. I got a lot of different things going. So, but I've been watching you guys' show for a couple of months. I've been lurking around in the chat room, and I'm very happy you guys have allowed me into the big room.
Absolutely. You're more than welcome to be here, man. Glad to have you on. Let's go ahead and get this show on. I want to start with this topic, because Ohio Runs Boxing is walking around like Ohio runs boxing, like it literally runs the sport of boxing. So I just, does the state of Ohio really run boxing, right? So shout out to Ohio Runs Boxing, by the way. What is the best state in the United States for boxing, right? So we'll save it for last. Ohio Runs, okay, but Lee Groves, talk to us. Well, what is the best state in your opinion? Is it Ohio or is it another state?
Well, I did a little bit of research into this. For me, it came down to 5 states. You got California, New York, Texas, Michigan, and Maryland. And one of the ways that I narrowed it down was to go through the Ring Magazine rankings from this week on ringtv.com and determine which state had the most rated fighters. And among the men, I found that California has 12, Texas has 7, New York has 5, Maryland has 5, Michigan has 3, Pennsylvania has 2, Florida has 2, and there are states with 1. Arizona, Tennessee, Louisiana, New Mexico, Rhode Island, Nebraska, New Jersey, and Ohio, Rashi Warren. So, and also, I think I picked California because not only do they produce the most world-class fighters, they also have plenty of good venues to hold fights, both indoors and outdoors. The weather is good pretty much year-round. And they have plenty of veteran officials who don't have quite the baggage of those in Texas and Nevada. And they also have tons of gyms and excellent sparring. So all in all, my vote's for California.
Okay, California, Beeb. Now, I know Eric Lorda might be watching. I just want to make sure you're aware of this, Beeb, okay?
He's not getting any props this week, Eric Lorda. I got to listen to him every Sunday talking about the greatest fighters come from Ohio. But, I have to be honest. I was going to say the same thing as Lee. Because you got the Robert Garcia gym down there. You got Freddie Roach's gym down there. I mean, that's where a lot of champions have come from, right, in recent years. So it's really, really, really hard to go against California. As much as I want to say Boston, I can't say it right now. There's no Marvin Hagler, may he rest in peace. There's no Marvin Hagler. There's no Rocky Marciano. I mean, so it's got to be California.
Absolutely. Hey, we're also being joined by the one and only Ashy Knuckles in the building, one of the original OGs of the White TVs. How's it going, Ashy? How you doing?
What's going on, fellas? Almost slipped my mind, man, until I got the notification. I'm like, oh.
Hey, Ashy, I need you to tell everybody why Texas runs boxing in the United States, right? Like, I need you to tell people why it's all about the state of Texas.
Oh, it's you know what? I'm always be partial to my stomping grounds, man. It's my turf. I don't know if they run boxing. I know I can, be a little macho and start saying that like a lot of folks do, talking when talking about their state. But, when you've been around the sport long enough, there's been great world champions from many parts of the country, whether it's Cali, whether it's the South, the Midwest, even the East, New York. But I see the homie Ohio runs boxing right there. They had some great champions come from Ohio, right? Boom Boom Mancini. I just remember being 20-0, lose his first world title shot to Alexis Arguello, and then he would go on to be a world champion. We're talking about in the 80s, you know what I'm saying? Youngstown. Kelly Pavlik came out of Youngstown too. You got we talking about an era. We're celebrating the 5 weight divisions of Canelo and the Mayweathers. When you talking about the 80s and like 81, there was no 4 division world champion yet. They hadn't come around yet. It was only 3. So, that was a time leading into the times that we're enjoying today. In fact, Alexis Arguello was the first one to go for a 4th world title against another Cincinnati guy, which is Aaron the Hawk Pryor, who's tapped that ass twice. So, like I said, it's a lot of. Well, I'm not making a case for nobody. I'll make a case for the United States, man. It's a lot of great fighters that came from all parts of the country, But I'll just give them my thoughts because I saw the Ohio Runs Boxing homie on here. And
I appreciate it, man. I appreciate it.
They produce a lot of good amateurs too, so let's not understate that.
Okay, all right. It looks like Ohio's making a comeback. It was kind of like, and then it kind of came back up. When Ashley emerged. Okay, all right.
That's because I was ahead, but go ahead.
All right. Hey, Maestro, what state in the United States runs boxing?
I mean, if I'm going to say runs boxing, I'm going to have to qualify it. So in terms of gyms and fighters, I think to Lee's point, California is definitely leading the pack. I'd also throw in the names like Oscar Valdez, wasn't even from there, but trains there with Reynoso and with Canelo, who also trains in California. So it's also a place that attracts fighters from other areas. Joshua Boazzi being another one who's now training under the tutelage of Virgil Hunter in Northern California. Even Amir Khan went out there to train with us. So I could go on because it's also, if we're talking about places where there are gyms that attract people, I got to put Cali up there. And then I also have to put Nevada up there, obviously, too, because even fighters out of Ohio, think about Sean Porter as being an example, relocate to to Las Vegas for their training. Even more recently, think about Jared Big Baby Anderson, also originally from Ohio, has not stayed in Ohio for the purposes of training, but is relocated to Las Vegas, Nevada for the purposes of training. So in terms of gyms, California. In terms of gyms, I'd put probably Las Vegas, Nevada up there with it as a 1A. In terms of putting on big fights, at that point, you have to go with Las Vegas, Nevada. I mean, there's no doubt about it at all. Secondly, I would have to say where I live here in New York City. New York City is definitely not up there right now in terms of its gyms or in terms of its talents coming out of the city. But I would have to say that in terms of putting on fights and being a media market, there's a reason why, even fights not taking place in New York, they usually do a New York City stop for a press conference. It's because New York City is a site of major media broadcasters. It's a major media market. So the 3 sites I'd have to come up with are California, Las Vegas, Nevada, and New York City for various reasons. Unfortunately, Ohio runs boxing. Ohio ain't making the cut.
Oh, man. Well, I just want to say that Texas runs boxing, ladies and gentlemen, okay? Jack Johnson was from Texas. Texas is where it's at. Now, granted, we have the worst judges, but we're not going to count that, okay? That's an issue, all right? Okay, but this is where the Jerry's world, right? We have fights here. Errol Spence, Virgil Ortiz, I mean the Charlo brothers. You know what I mean? One might be undisputed this Saturday. I'm just saying. You know what I mean? I'm just saying. But Ohio runs boxing. We'll give you the last word for you to plug in your stuff, obviously, because your Ohio runs boxing. So go ahead.
I appreciate it, man. I'm the original person who started the Ohio Runs Boxing. Nobody thought about their state as a whole until I came on the scene. So I have the right to end this. But a lot of people don't understand when I made Ohio Run Boxing, it means everything involves in boxing, not just the fighters. So I'm gonna just let y'all understand where my statistics came from in the history of Ohio. Man, we have been contenders and world champions since boxing began. We have been here for the longest. Historically, Rasheed Warren is the only Olympian that went 3 times. He was the 3-time Olympian in the United States. That's been recorded in history. No one has ever done that before. That's just one statistic. Another one, we had 3 times we had 3 Olympians on one team on the United States, and we just had 3 Olympians from Ohio on this recent Olympic team. That was 3. The hardest puncher of all time, Ernie Shavers, will be mentioned all the time. Warren, Ohio. His name will just be up there. When you think about Wilder and all these foremen, they always bring up Ernie Shavers, the hardest puncher of all time. Biggest upset in boxing history, Buster Douglas, Columbus, Ohio. That's historic. That will never, ever be a biggest upset than Buster Douglas over Mike Tyson. So you got statistics like that that you can talk about. Real 11 Olympians in one city out of Cincinnati, Ohio, the most ever. So what makes Ohio so special, guys, is we a small state. You just named California. Can't really beat that. Look how big Cali is. Look how big Texas is. But we're talking about this small little state over here in Ohio. And like you said, Jared, and a lot of people relocate because they don't get that much exposure in Ohio like they should, and they get in trouble. We have a reputation. We have legends that didn't make it to be where they were supposed to be because of the streets. So they have to relocate and get away from that area. So we have no problem, going to Cali and Las Vegas. And Sean Porter, great guy. He moved to Las Vegas. They don't forget where they come from. And I think we all know the history of the heavyweight division. The future of the heavyweight division is probably going to be coming from Ohio with big baby Jared Anderson. You know what I mean? I think a lot of people think he has the potential to be a world champion. Montana Love, Charles Conwell, another Olympian. Cleveland had 4 consecutive Olympians back to back. It's been a while since they have seen that in America too, when it comes to back-to-back Olympians, 4 straight. Terrell Goucher, Tiger Johnson. Top Rank right now has 6, 7 Ohio signings right now. 7. No one has that many with Top Rank. PBC, I don't even have to start with them. We know Robert Easter, Terrell Goucher, Rasheed Warren, Adrian Broner, Sean Porter. He's retired now, but the list goes on. Ohio has always been consistent, and it's not just the fighters. Al Heyman, he's from Cleveland, Ohio. He came in the game, and started running boxing. Don King, he's from Ohio. He came in the game and started running boxing. We have a clothes designer from out of Dayton, Ohio, who does majority of the clothes. He's competing with a lot of other guys, but he's taking over. His name is Aaron Harrison. So when I think about Ohio running boxing, it's not just the fighters, guys. It's everything we touch on. The biggest fights in history, Al Heyman had his hands on it. Rumble in the Jungle, Don King, Tank Davis, who's about to be a future star. It wasn't Mayweather who found him. It was Adrian Broner who discovered Tank Davis and gave him to Floyd Mayweather. So I cover my tracks while Ohio run boxing. That's all I have to say, guys.
Hey, bro, I'm gonna give you Tim Austin too, who was a really good world champion, a good amateur. You got
Underrated.
Michael Dokes. Yeah, definitely.
Absolutely.
You got Michael Dokes. He was from there.
I heard a lot of talk about the amateur game. So if we're going to talk about the amateur game, then I'm going to say Cuba runs boxing.
Whoa.
Ohio has a population of 11 million. You're talking about it not being a big population. I agree. Cuba has a population of 11 million. And Cuba has a bunch of fighters that have been to Olympic Games multiple times, including the great Teofimo Stevenson. Okay,
absolutely, but listen, I love how you brought up Cuba. Cuba does have they just doesn't translate well into the pros. They always been consistent when it comes to the Olympics. That's all, and you got to understand they're some of their Olympians are 32 years old. They've been fighting in the Olympics every 4 years they're there, so they don't have the opportunity that other people. So shout out to Cuba. One thing that I wanted to do. Go ahead.
Another big one to me too is obviously the UK. You know, you got to give it up to the Marquis of Queensberry. You know, the OG back in the day that came up with the rules of modern boxing, and obviously everything that England's done. But yeah, I mean, if we're talking about the United States, then it goes without question that Ohio's definitely had its impact.
Yeah, look, I think the case has been made. I think a lot of people have been educated. That's what it's all about. And I just want everybody you make sure you follow Ohio Runs Boxing on Instagram, Facebook.
Hey,
great stuff, great memes, by the way, funny stuff. Go ahead.
Let me say this too. Ohio Run Boxing is not to attack anybody's state or anything like that. It's more focused on pride, man. I want the people that's from my state to understand how gifted and how talented we are. I show love to everybody else. Rashidi Ellis, I think he's out of Massachusetts. Me and him got a good relationship. I think he's a great fighter. So I got relationships with fighters all over. But I want everybody that when they say New York Run Boxing, Texas, just support. I get people who don't even support their state just come on my page and say Texas Run Boxing, but they don't buy name, never been to an event. They don't go to the amateur events. They don't do that. Like I do this for real. I don't just say it. You know, I support it.
Support, absolutely. All right, guys, we're gonna go ahead and talk about this here. Eddy Reynoso, is he overrated or just going through a slump? Okay, well, his camp bounced back 0-3, ladies and gentlemen, and big 0-3s. I'm talking like he probably won like a combined, like I'm not even joking about this, like a combined like 4 or 5 rounds in 3 fights. Okay. Ray lost to Chocolatito handily. Valdez lost to Shakur handily. Canelo lost to Bivol handily. Combined, maybe 4 or 5 rounds at most between all 3 fights. Right, Chris Ariola actually put an Instagram story saying Reynoso is overrated. He said Goosen's a better trainer. He said Canelo's a good fighter, but Reynoso's overrated. Goosen's a better fighter. Just as a side note, Ryan obviously left as well, so it is what it is. Ohio Runs Boxing. I'm going to take it back to you. Is Reynoso overrated or just going through a slump right now?
I'm gonna go out and say no. I don't think he's overrated, man. I think he didn't make no adjustments. I do criticize him on the Canelo. He did. I do think it's really hard for me to criticize trainers because I'm not. But I think he didn't give the proper instructions. Canelo. I was trying to listen to see if he was, but he just I think he's just going through a slump. We praised him when Canelo was winning. And now he's getting the criticism when they lose. So I think that's just part of being a trainer. I think he's gonna be all right, man. And you got, man, listen, Valdez, and I get it. Valdez was just was against a slick guy like Shakur Stevenson. I actually thought it was gonna look like Mayweather versus Gotti, to be honest. So Valdez was just he's never really used his jab. He wasn't always consistent with his jab, and I just felt like there's nothing he really could have did to really change the outcome of that fight. They really didn't want that fight. But to answer it, man, to make it short, I don't think he's overrated. He's going through his trials, man. He's going through his tribulations, so he'll be able to bounce back, man. He'll be able to bounce back.
Maestro, 2021 Trainer of the Year. He's had a rough one this year. So what do you think?
Well, I mean, I think he clearly deserved it in 2021, not just as a trainer, but as a manager. In less than a calendar year, Canelo had 4 fights and became undisputed, right? So once you reach the mountaintop, really where else is there to go? I started coaching sports when I was a teenager, track and field, and then later basketball and some boxing as well. And one of the earliest lessons I learned as a coach was that, when you win, the athletes get all the credit. And when you lose, the coach takes all the blame. In many respects, I feel that, Eddy Reynoso inherited something great from Chepo, his father. You know, a lot of times you hear about Eddie Hearn inheriting the keys to the kingdom, so to speak, as it relates to Matchroom. Chepo led a gym in Guadalajara that his son kind of stepped into, leading once Chepo got older. And one of the earlier charges that he inherited was the young Saul Canelo Alvarez, who has gone on to do great things in the sport under the leadership of those two gentlemen, and later on pretty much under the sole leadership of the son, Eddie. You know, when you reach great heights, you become an in-demand guy. That happened to Virgil Hunter as well when he had a lot of success with Andre Ward. Is he always going to be able to replicate that success with other people? Absolutely not. I mean, you know, Virgil Hunter couldn't do it with Amir Khan and others, and it's unrealistic to assume that Eddy Reynoso is going to be able to achieve the same success he had with Canelo with other fighters. So I don't think he's overrated. I think Canelo's gotten most of the accolades, to be fair, throughout his run. And only time will tell to see how that partnership continues. But I think P's respected just about right in the sport of boxing, personally.
All right, all right. Shout out to the Don out there. Beeb, give it to us. What do you think?
You know, a lot of people are criticizing Reynoso because they don't feel he gave the proper instructions in the corner. But if I'm going to be honest, I look at the Shakur Stevenson, Oscar Valdez fight, and I look at this past fight on Saturday. These were just bad style matchups, and I'm just not sure any trainer would have made a difference in either fight. So, you know, he won the 2021 Trainer of the Year. Canelo's record speaks for itself. He's trained, you know, a lot of other champions as well. I don't think he's overrated. You know, again, we'll see what happens moving forward, but I'm sure, you know, Canelo will have success, and we'll see what happens at 168. But I don't believe he's overrated. I think it was just bad style matchups, in my opinion.
All right. Okay. Ashi, talk to us. Does Chris Arreola have a point? Is he overrated?
With all due respect to Chris Arreola, you know, he's a fighter. He has his own opinion. And I am in agreement that Goosen is a good trainer. I can't say better or not. I can't gauge that. I'm not a fighter. I've never trained under any one of those guys, and both have obviously had their stages of success in the sport of boxing. But no, I don't think Eddy Reynoso is overrated, and I have my reasons why. And I'm gonna preface it by saying this is strictly my reasons, not the media and how they choose who's the trainer of the year. I don't really care how they go through their process, because I think it's bogus anyway. But the mark of a great trainer is not when you can take an already world champion and take them higher. That's not the mark of a great trainer to me. The mark of a great trainer, when somebody walks through your gym doors and it's just a pile of clay and you mold a world champion out of him, where they're taking him through the amateurs and he's a national champion, Golden Gloves, Olympian, all your various accolades you can get in the unpaid ranks. You take him through that, he does well, and then you take him pro and he becomes world champion. That's a great trainer. Kevin Cunningham, that's a great trainer. Dan Birmingham, that's a great trainer. Tony Morgan, that's a great trainer, even though he's underrated and Berto ended up leaving him, but he's a great trainer. And you can add, in my opinion, you can add Eddy Reynoso to that too, because he took Canelo from nothing and built him into the best fighter out, well, arguably the best fighter out there right now. So, yeah, he's having a tough go. You know, Valdez lost to a better fighter, and Canelo lost to a bigger fighter who's better, who had the right game plan and the skills to execute and emerge victorious in a fight that was huge. So he just happened to be losing on a losing streak right now. But no, I don't mark that, or I don't credit that to him being a fluke or a bogus trainer. You cannot do what he's done in the sport and be overrated. You know, I think him getting a Trainer of the Year award is fitting. I think in the past, a lot of times those Trainer of the Year awards have been given to people who were deserving and then people who were not deserving. I thought it was very lazy how they gave out that award in the past, and I'm not going to beat on a dead horse about that, but no, he's not overrated, in my opinion.
Okay. All right. Lee?
I agree with the panel. And I agree with what Angelo Dundee said about the subject. A trainer is only as good as the fighters that he trains. You know, a lot of people called Angelo Dundee a genius when he had Carmen Basilio, Jose Napoles, Willie Pastrano, Luis Rodriguez, Sugar Ray Leonard, Muhammad Ali. He was, for many years, considered one of the great trainers of all time, but he didn't suddenly become an idiot when fighters like James Quick Tillis, Trevor Berbick, Pinklin Thomas, Adelson Rodriguez, Jimmy Ellis, they lost fights with Angelo in the corner. And it really is ultimately up to the fighters to execute what the trainer says. And if the fighters they don't have the requisite skills to execute, then, you know, that's out of the trainer's control. All he can do is get him in the best condition that he can, give him the best instructions that he can, and then hope for the best. And as far as Eddy Reynoso's current slump is concerned, I agree with Beeb. It's bad style matchups. Look who they were standing across the ring from. Oscar Valdez was going up against Shakur Stevenson, one of the great defensive fighters of today, and his numbers are just absolutely spectacular. His ring generalship was absolutely spectacular. He fought the perfect fight plan, and Oscar Valdez tried. He really tried. I could see his face when he was digging in those hooks to the body. His face was grimacing. He was giving everything that he got. But Shakur Stevenson is a master tactician, and he knew what to do to stop that rally. Martinez, Julio Cesar Martinez, was facing Chocolatito. Chocolatito's been on a very good run lately. Yeah, he lost against Estrada, but most people thought he won that fight. And Chocolatito executed his game plan against a reigning world champion who was moving up in weight. And then there's been Dimitri Bivol against Canelo. And a lot of people in the know thought that Dimitri Bivol had the tools to outright beat Canelo. Bigger, poised, technically strong, fundamentally strong, focused, and all of the assets that Bivol carried into the ring have historically given Canelo problems. So you give credit to the opponents for executing against Eddy Reynoso's fighters. Eddy Reynoso got Canelo into condition. They knew what they were up against, and Bivol executed and had the signature victory. Credit for him. So I think that Eddy Reynoso, careers go in peaks and valleys. Eddy Reynoso's had peaks for a very long time. Now he's experiencing some of the valleys. There was a time where James Buddy McGirt was the greatest trainer in the world. He had a lot of great fights. You know, he transformed Arturo Gatti and made him more of a technical fighter, and he made it work for several of those fights. And he lengthened Arturo Gatti's career. But then there came a time where the run of great fighters ran out, and Buddy McGirt didn't get the results that he was looking for, and therefore he dropped off. We've seen it with other trainers, and I think we're going to see it with Eddy Reynoso. Time will tell what his true worth is. I don't think it's the time to pull the plug on Eddy Reynoso's greatness yet.
All right. I hear you guys. You know what I mean? I hear you loud and clear. I hear you to the heavens. I hear you in the depths of hell. I hear you guys everywhere. Okay, on all all horizons in space. Let me tell you guys something right now. Okay. Look, I'm not saying Reynoso's a bad trainer. You know what I mean? He's good, but is he like when I look? Do I say to myself, "Oh, that's the best trainer in boxing"? That guy right there. No, I've never thought that ever. In fact, I think Canelo has the same exact record if Buddy McGirt was his trainer. Okay, I could put Joe Habib in his corner, and Canelo would still have only 2 losses in his record. I'm just saying right now, Canelo would still beat Caleb Plant if he had you in the corner. Okay, I'm just saying. I'm not saying Reynoso's a bad trainer, but we got Luis Nery saying, hey, this dude was changing my style. He wanted me to train exactly like Canelo. Ryan Garcia left. Okay. In all 3 fights, I get, okay, let's say I agree. They were outmatched. What was the jab? What were the attempted jabs, at least? Ray didn't throw jabs. Valdez didn't throw jabs. And Canelo didn't throw a jab. Like, I mean, look, I saw Bomac at the very least have Herring utilize a jab in the fight against Shakur. At the very least, he was throwing a jab to the stomach. You know, just as an example, I think he could have implemented that. I think, in my opinion, this is my opinion, Eddy Reynoso is not a terrible trainer, but he's never been the best trainer in boxing. I never looked at him and said, that dude's the best. Okay, just my opinion. All right, I think he has. Go ahead, Maestro.
Yeah. Well, okay. So I don't necessarily think he's the best trainer, necessarily, but I also don't think you can replace him in Canelo's corner. I mean, their bond goes back to the time when Canelo was a boy. I mean, the bond that they have with each other is that of father and son, or at least if not father and son, uncle and nephew, or, I mean, that's not easily replaceable. The chemistry that they have.
Can I add something? Can I ask you a question real quick?
That's one thing. And then I want to make another comment about the jabs. In all 3 of those fights, the guys that they were jabbing were better jabbers. Bivol is a better jabber than Canelo. Shakur is a better jabber than Valdez. And Chocolatito's a much better jabber than Martinez. So to pinpoint and identify the jab as a deficiency there, you're pinpointing something in all 3 fighters that their opponents do not just a little bit better than them, but a lot better than them. I don't think that's
reach too.
Yeah, at height and reach as well in all 3 of those fights. I don't think that's something that's Reynoso's fault. Now, could different things have happened in the fight that would negate the better jab? Yeah, maybe. But anyone who's been in there knows it. Trying to jab with a jabber or out jab a jabber is a very difficult proposition, especially when those jabbers are Dimitri Bivol, Shakur Stevenson, and I mean, one of the best little guys of all time in Chocolatito. So I will just counter with that.
Well, one, I mean, the Martinez-Chocolatito fight, according to many, was a 50-50 fight, right? That's number one. Second, the Valdez fight, just because he was outmatched doesn't mean he couldn't have done better. Look, let me tell you, Robert Garcia had Marcos Maidana against Floyd Mayweather. And he got him to jab Mayweather in the fucking face. I don't want to hear you can never implement a jab against somebody that has a better jab than you. When I have seen guys that don't have as good of a jab, aren't as good, a jab could be used by any fighter. Mike Tyson came out and said, yo, you got to use your jab, Canelo. And he needs to find a way to utilize the jab.
Exactly. And how did that work exactly for Tyson against Lewis? Did he see him putting on an expert jabbing display when he took on Lennox Lewis? I found that to be very funny because Tyson struggled with big dudes. So I mean,
but he did utilize the jab against other big dudes because he didn't do it against Lewis. Doesn't mean he didn't do it in other fights.
I mean, Joe, I saw you. I don't want to dominate this discussion.
No, I'm just saying, this idea, okay, that they can't utilize a jab because the other guy has a better jab. I don't think. What about my Maidana point about Mayweather? What about that point? We're not going to acknowledge that point.
I think what Maestro's trying to say.
Mike Tyson's opinion because he got beat by Lewis.
I think what Maestro's trying to say, and I don't want to put words in his mouth, but when you're in there with the guy who's got a better jab than you, a lot of times they can take your jab away from you. It happened a lot.
100%. And the other
Canelo hasn't used a jab against fighters he's better than in last few fights.
Okay, the thing that's wrong about that Maidana comparison is Maidana was naturally a much bigger guy than Floyd. Okay, Chocolatito is bigger than Martinez. Shakur is bigger than he is. Chocolatito's bigger than Martinez. You can look up the numbers if you don't agree with me.
You can look up the numbers if you want. I don't believe Floyd when he said he weighed lighter that night. I don't.
Valdez is smaller than Stevenson. And it goes without saying that Canelo at barely 5'8" is smaller than Bivol.
You want to compare arm length with Maidana Floyd?
You're comparing a guy who had a physical advantage.
Maidana couldn't land anything. Look. Let me say this. Maidana couldn't do shit to Alexander. When he got with Garcia, they implemented a jab and he got better and he used it against Floyd. It landed against Floyd. I don't want to hear you can't use a jab successfully just because your opponent has a better jab than you. I don't believe in that.
I never said you can't use a jab. I said
it has an impact, though. It has a very big impact.
All three fights didn't land any good jabs at all. That's all I'm saying. Okay, like that's a valid criticism in my opinion.
Again, against some of the best jabbers in the sport. I think Bivol's the best jabber in the light heavyweight division. I think it goes without saying that Shakur's the best jabber at 130. And I think it goes without saying that Chocolatito's the best jabber at 115. So that's all.
Right. So anybody else have anything else to add before we proceed?
I'll say one thing to support your point, because Maestro did make. I think it was Ash.
He needs your help. Help him out.
I think Ashley said this.
Help him out.
Ashley
help him out. Don't help me. Help him out.
Let me go. Okay, calm down. It's okay. Ashley made a great point when he said that Reynoso took Canelo from the root to the fruit, right? But the big question is, can he do that with somebody else? Because we've seen Virgil Hunter do that with Andre Ward, but he never was able to do it with something. And that's not to say Virgil Hunter's not a good trainer, but sometimes a fighter and a trainer just mesh very well together, and it's hard to replicate that chemistry with someone else. There was a time when Emmanuel Stewart, he had Hilmer Canty, but the big guy was Tommy Hearns, right? Took him, he really put a lot of time and effort into him. But then when we started seeing Emmanuel Stewart do it with other fighters, we seen him transform. Like, he transformed Lennox Lewis. He did make Lennox Lewis a better fighter. You know what I mean? He did make Vladimir Klitschko a better fighter. We could see it. They just did things with him that they weren't doing before. So we need to see if Reynoso can replicate what he's done with Canelo with other fighters. He hasn't shown evidence of that yet. So time will tell.
Joe, even to piggyback off what you just said, look at Jack Lowe out of Youngstown, Ohio, with Kelly Pavlik.
Yes.
There you go, right there.
Yes.
And then you have the Peterson brothers that were trained by the same trainer all along as well. But I think the nature of the game today is I think there are fewer and fewer opportunities to take a fighter from the very beginning, like 7, 8 years old, and bring him all the way through to a professional world championship, because it's become kind of a vagabond sport. You reach a plateau, and then the fighter either goes to another trainer or the trainer lets them go, and whatever. There are just fewer and fewer opportunities. So when they do actually happen, it becomes really special.
Yeah,
it does.
These guys have become guns for hire, these trainers, basically.
And that's the nature of the business,
right.
Unfortunately.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Yeah, that's definitely what they've become. I mean, even Emmanuel Stewart's second half of his run, he was like a gun for hire. So
he was,
and he's a really great trainer because he was able to bridge the two eras. He showed that he can take a fighter from the very beginning to the top, and then from the higher gun era, he could take a fighter that's already formed and make him better. So that's one of the reasons why he's probably one of the top 5 trainers who have ever lived, and maybe even higher.
Yeah, for sure. Look, I still believe that that there's always improvements fighters can make, and in my opinion, I'm not saying he needs to fire Reynoso. I do agree that they have great chemistry, but I think they need something new. I just think that high guard has been figured out, in my opinion, and I just think they need to mix it up. That's all I'm saying. Okay, and as far as that goes, I mean, Chavez Sr., right? He brought in Emmanuel Stewart in some of his camps, okay? You're never too good to bring another look, okay? Maybe they need to bring somebody that's, a trainer that understands a Russian style or something like that, or a European style. They do need different looks coming in. Someone who's a master at that craft or something like that.
They need Buddy McGirt in that corner. I love Buddy McGirt.
Oscar De La Hoya did that plenty of times. He changed trainers. Jesus Rivero was the trainer, I think, of Miguel Canto, and he wanted to become a better boxer. He brought in Floyd Mayweather Sr. And he had Emmanuel Stewart, I believe, for a time as well when he wanted to be more aggressive. So,
and I got to be honest. I think that the whole hitting the bicep thing to tear the arm approach, I just think it just happened to have worked against Callum Smith, and I think they got too overconfident about it because you can't I don't know. I don't know. That's the best game plan in the world. It's my opinion.
Yeah,
But
that's
I
a
agree.
That's a
Matt
Rocky
Arm was the
Marciano.
one-
That's a Rocky Marciano tactic back in the
It
day.
is.
okay. Well,
He absolutely destroyed the blood vessels in Roland Lestar's arms.
You
and
remember
led
that?
to
Yeah.
the left-hand knockout. Yeah.
My dad used to tell me about
And
that.
you can see the big bruise on Bivol's jabbing arm. And yet, Bivol was still able to dominate with his jab, though not as much as he had in previous fights. He took away his jab to a point. But then because Bivol compensated by being a little more aggressive with his punch distribution, he was more aggressive and he was more willing to throw those combinations when Canelo was on the ropes. He was able to compensate with his jab being somewhat diminished.
I would also add that with Bivol too, even when Canelo did try to go on the front foot and kind of attack a little bit, he was quick with his feet and got pretty quickly out of range. Bivol just put on a master class. I called in the Joe show on Sunday because someone ridiculously asserted that what he did was basic boxing, and it just absolutely wasn't basic at all.
look, Bivol got the rub from Whitaker, so that tells you everything.
Yeah.
If Whitaker tells you, "Hey, your defense was on point," I think we should believe him. But that's just what I think, for sure. Hey guys, Boots Ennis will be fighting this weekend against Custio Clayton. Go ahead and give me your quick predictions and what because I think we all I believe anyway, unless somebody has an upset special, but I think we all agree who's going to win. But look, Boots has been calling out Crawford and Spence. Okay. And maybe you should go the standing ordinance route first or something. So you guys could kind of mention that. But Maestro, your quick prediction, and do you think Boots is ready for Crawford Spence?
Well, I definitely think he's ready for Custio Clayton, who's out of Nova Scotia, I believe, up in Canada, where they have a big African-American population. It was the last stop on the Underground Railroad way back in the day. One of my best friends, shout out to Smurf, half of his family is actually from that part of the world. But it's been a while really since that part of the world has produced an elite world-class boxer. Well, what are we talking about? We're talking about maybe Kurt Johnson, and before that even longer. I mean, look, he's in for a big awakening. Let's just put it that way against Boots Ennis. The problem with Boots Ennis right now, I think, is that he presents himself as a high risk, low reward proposition to most fighters. He doesn't really have a huge fan base yet. He's not a huge ticket seller. It was not that long ago that he was fighting on kind of Showbox-esque type cards and then kind of smaller Showtime cards. So, I mean, the big guys in the division really got no reason to want to step in there with it. And guys that are also waiting for big shots like him also probably don't want to get in there with him either because they're going to lose their O. So what's left are the Custio Claytons of the world. And time will tell when we see Boots in with a guy that we think is a 50-50 fight for him. I know Joe is super high on Boots, as am I. But that's just based on the eye test because he's been obliterating lower level opposition, but we have yet to see him there against kind of an A-class fighter just yet.
Ashi, your quick prediction, and do you think he's ready for the Crawfords, Spences?
Look, first of all, the quick prediction is going to be Boots by absolute slaughter. Number one. Number two, he's absolutely ready for Crawford and Errol, not just because of the skills that he's possessed, but a fighter gets into boxing to become world champion. You don't get into boxing to be in awe of motherfuckers. You know what I'm saying? Spence and Errol, those are the champions in the weight division that Boots is campaigning in. Is he supposed to actually turn down a title shot at 28 fights? 28 victories and 26 knockouts? No. It just so happens the champions in the weight class that he's in happen to be some real monsters. So you either going to shit or get off the damn pot. You are a fighter. You don't come in the sport to be in awe of people. You come in the sport to fight the very best that's out there, and he happens to be in a sport where two of the very best fighters in the world are campaigning in the same weight class. And if I was him, I wouldn't have it any other way, because how else do you make a name for yourself than to knock off a name? So he's been ready for a title shot. It just so happens that these two monsters got all the belts. So all he can do is fight the very best opposition he can get until he's able to secure one of those title shots in one of these organizations. But for Custio Clayton, I thought he got robbed against Sergey Lipinets. He's a 35-year-old guy. You know, it's now or never. You know, I'm sure he sounded like he was in awe of Boots at the press conference. But if you don't take these type of fights, you may never get a title shot. So he has his opportunity. Will he make like Ricardo Mayorga when Mayorga fought against Andrew Sixheads Lewis and knocked him out and actually became somebody? This is Clayton's opportunity. He can step up to the plate and knock the ball out the park, or he can be in awe and go back to being a ball boy. You know, we'll see this weekend.
It's a big shot. Ohio runs boxing. Quick prediction. And is he ready for Crawford or Spence?
Yes, man. I think I have him winning. I definitely have him winning. I think this is a good fight for him. It's not the top tier, but I think this is a good fight for him. I like the lip in this win. Some people thinking like I heard someone said the A-class fighter, he hasn't fought nobody really to push him. But I think he's ready, man. We know with the eye test. I think the sanctioning bodies, is he ready for Terrence Crawford and Errol Spence? Absolutely. This is what the sanctioning bodies are supposed to do. It's their job to put these guys that's high risk, low reward in position for mandatory shots, because that was what it's all about. That's what the mandatory, the sanctioning bodies is supposed to do. Look at Erison Lubin. Lubin got his shot. He didn't win, but he got his opportunity, even though people didn't feel like he was ready or not. But he got his opportunity. Ocampos. I mean, we got some of these guys that are getting mandatories, and you're like, are you serious? Dominic Wade. No disrespect to these guys, but you can't tell me that Ennis don't deserve to be a mandatory for one of these titles. You get what I'm saying? Or even Undisputed, whatever. I don't think he's going to fight for Undisputed. He's going to fight for a vacant one if he don't get one of these guys. But, yes, I think he is ready. I hope he gets a mandatory spot and get ready and has a fight for one. Maybe a vacant belt, but he can fight. He can definitely compete with some of these guys at the top, in my opinion.
All right. Okay. Lee Groves, her prediction, and is he ready for the top guys, Crawford, Spence?
Well, you know, as for the fight itself, because Ennis has been such a tremendous offensive fighter, and because Custio Clayton is not in that league offensively, I think that Clayton's objective is to have the 24-year-old Ennis fight at a 34-year-old's pace. And as for Ennis, the reverse is true. He wants to have the 34-year-old fight at the 24-year-old's pace. And as far as whether he is ready or not, I think that the fact that this is being billed as an IBF welterweight title eliminator, in theory, the winner of this fight will be in position to fight for the title next. Should Spence and Crawford settle the division as far as Undisputed is concerned, or as Ohio Runs Boxing says, could be for a vacant title if the titles are split up. I believe that Ennis has shown all the hallmarks so far of being a future superstar. He is a bigger, stronger, and somewhat more explosive version of Bud Crawford because he is able also to fight both ways and punch with power from both stances. I am a little worried sometimes that Ennis is so focused on offense that he could get caught with singular shots down the middle. We've seen that. But he's still a young guy. He's still a couple, 2, 3, 4 years away from his chronological peak. He's a guy who is dedicated to training and to learning. I think he'll become even better. I think that he is 1 or 2 fights away from being totally ready to take on the winner of Spence and Crawford. And I think a year from now, he might make their measure because he's younger and they are in their 30s and Crawford is near his mid-30s. So I think that skill, talent, and chronology will eventually come together in Boots Ennis's favor.
All right. Beeb, quick prediction. And is he ready for these guys?
Well, I got an old saying, something that I always say all the time is nobody, people don't fight anybody until they fight somebody. So everyone needs their breakthrough fight, right? And he needs his breakthrough fight, and we're never going to know until he does get that breakthrough fight. We can look at him and say he passes the eye test, but the eye test doesn't really matter in the record books, right? Clayton is older. I thought he beat Lipinets, like Ashley said. I've only seen Clayton fight twice. To me, he looks like he's pretty quick on his feet. He moves pretty well. He likes to go in and out a little bit. He's kind of a crafty fighter. Likes to, like I said, use that ambush style. And then when he comes out, he tries to suck you into something, set traps for you. The question is, as Lee said, will Ennis be a little bit too anxious, a little overly aggressive, and will he be chasing him around? Is he going to try and get him out of there quickly and maybe try to too hard for the knockout and maybe look sloppy in this fight because he's expected to win? At some point, you have to question, will there be some complacency because he's not getting the big fights that he wants? I don't think this will be a banana skin type fight. I think he should get Clayton out of there within 5 rounds. With 28 fights in, it's the time where you have to find out if you're ready. I mean, so I think he's got to take the title shot when it becomes available because you never know when it's going to come again, right? 28 fights. I know he's only 24, but you want to jump on it when it's offered to you. So if, this is about the right time where you should be trying to see if you're ready or not. Obviously, you got to believe in yourself, but if I'm handling him, I got to say to myself, 28 fights is he's fought a lot of mid-level guys, right? Who else could we put him in there that's going to prepare him any better for a Spence or a Crawford? Who else is out there? Danny Garcia. I mean, what's the next step, really? I mean,
Amanisian.
Yeah, maybe one of those
check this
guys.
out too.
Go ahead,
let's say he does get a title shot at one of these guys for one of these belts, and he loses. It's not the end of the world. I alluded to Ray Mancini. He lost his first world title shot, didn't stop him. Arguello lost his first world title shot. Bernard Hopkins lost his first world title shot. He lost the Roy Jones. That was his first one, right? So, I mean, it's not the end of the world. And he was up against the beast, Bernard Hopkins was.
Yeah.
And he would go on to become a beast himself. So, like I said, you're not going to turn down a title shot at 28 fights and 0 losses. And it just so happens, it's just happened to be some monsters in his division. But he got to take that shot. He got to take that smoke. There's no more waiting. There's no avoiding and going around trying to find maybe somebody who, everybody think you're ready for it. No, you're ready for them. Go for them, get that title shot.
Let me throw this in here real quick too. It's kind of ironic that he's in the top 3 right now. Well, we're not gonna say top 3. Well, he's the 3rd man out watching these, Errol Spence and Crawford. But I remember they were saying this with J-Rock. J-Rock was coming up, and they were saying this about Jermell before he moved up. You scared? You got to take on this young lion, and he fought him. And you know what? J-Rock from Philadelphia, and Ennis from Philadelphia. So, like I said, J-Rock lost, but he came back and won a championship. You know what I mean? So that can happen, man.
So I kind of want to follow up with this for you guys. So, well, first of all, I do think Boots should win. My eye test tells me, but I get it, right? We gotta see what happens. But I think he should be Clayton, and I do think that's it. It is a good step up, in my opinion. That is a step up for him. And if he passes with flying colors, I think he's ready. But here's the question: should these young guys, while Crawford, Spence sort their thing out, if they do, I don't even know they're going to fight, but let's say they do, should Virgil Ortiz fight Boots? Or Connor Ben, should they all fight each other, or should they hold off until they have titles and then fight each other? Just a really quick thought about that. Go ahead, Maestro.
Well, I think it depends on which way you're looking at it. So if you're looking at it from the perspective of a manager, then you would want to get your fighter that big money title shot against, an aging fighter, right? And guess what? If he loses in a championship fight, well, he did his best in a championship fight versus what I used to call the boxing after dark kind of main event that we honestly don't get much of anymore. When I was growing up, you always had those main events. I used to love it when two contenders from the heavyweight division down to lower divisions used to fight each other, with the expectation that one of the two, the winner, would get a headlining, date on a HBO World Championship boxing card. That feels to me like ages ago. So as a fan, hell yeah, I'd love to see them fight now. But is that realistic in the current business landscape of boxing? Probably not. And I just want to shout out two names, George Dixon and Sam Langford, two historical great African-American fighters out of Nova Scotia, Canada. So that those are the people that Custio Clayton comes from. However, I don't really see him winning this fight this Saturday.
Anybody else want to comment on that before we proceed?
If I didn't make my prediction clear, I see Boots winning between rounds 6 to 8. I think he's going to take his time in the early rounds and put on a really good show. As far as, as I agree with Maestro, as fans, we want to see everybody fight everybody. And that's what we're fans. That's what we want to see. We want to see the best fights every time. But we also recognize that the business plays a huge role in who fights whom, when. And, it's called prize fighting for a reason. And the managers and the promoters want to maximize all the money that they can get. And if they can get it by waiting, they'll wait. And we wait.
I want to see the fight. I want to see the fight. I would like to see them guys fight. Kelly Pavlik had to fight Errol Miranda before he fought Jermaine Taylor. He took on a tough task before he, I think if he didn't fight Errol Miranda, he might not. He wouldn't have been ready for Jermaine Taylor, who was more athletic, more faster than Kelly. He went through the fire before he came in. And I think that's the problem with some of these guys. They need to be tested before they fight for a world title. Look at Caleb Plant. He was a world champion. He fought Canelo, but he didn't fight nobody on the Canelo's type of level. So he's asking for validation in the 10th round, how good he is. I don't think you would be doing that if you had a fight. If you fought a Jermell Charlo or Benavidez before you fought Canelo, you wouldn't be asking him if you're good or how you look. That's the problem with some of these guys. So I'm with you. I understand the manager side. Trust me, I do. But some of these guys, they need to get in the kitchen before they start cooking. That's all I'm going to say.
Yeah, look, here's what I'll say. In my opinion, Virgil Ortiz versus Boots Ennis is a big blockbuster fight. Okay. And is how I feel. Look, if Crawford and Spence are going to fight each other, then I agree. I don't mind seeing Virgil fight Boots, right? But if they're not going to fight each other, then they need to give these young guns a shot for that title. I think that's what they need to do. Instead of having them fight each other and then beat each other up, and then Crawford and Spence don't got to defend the belts against them. Nah. How about like Ortiz, Crawford, Boots, Spence, or vice versa, and you defend the belts against the young guns? That's how I feel about it. If they're not going to fight each other, if Crawford and Spence are going to fight each other, then I'm all for Ortiz, Boots getting it on. You know what I mean? It just depends on what they're going to do. That's how I feel about it. If they're not going to fight each other, at the very least, give these young guns, these young lions, a shot at the championship. That's how I personally feel about it. You know what I mean? But we'll see how that goes. Okay. Look, so we went from a very serious fight that's going to happen to Mayweather will be fighting dangerous Don Moore in a helipad in Dubai. All right. Beeb, talk to us, brother. Are you excited for this fight? You're going to buy, and you buy everything. Joe Abib from Ringside Reporter buys every single pay-per-view. Are you going to buy this one?
No, can't do it. I'm just really not interested in this.
It's in a helipad like in a skyscraper.
Yeah, I'm not interested in this. It's like $14.99. I bought Bobby Gunn versus Roy Jones, but I'm not going to buy this.
You're not gonna buy this fight. What?
No.
Yo, like it's by the way, I was reading the articles and they're like, it's dangerous. Like, that's his nickname. I thought like whoever was writing was calling him dangerous. They find the dangerous.
Yeah.
So you're not interested in the fight. That's it.
I have like no interest in this fight. It's so crazy. I just like no one's talking about it. I'm sure people in Dubai care about it.
We're
But
talking about it right now, baby, here on the round table. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
We're bringing it up right now.
I mean, I don't know if we're really talking about it or if we're making a joke about it. I don't know if this is. I don't know if you consider is this a serious discussion or are we just having like fun?
Yo, this is dangerous Don Moore, brother. He's undefeated.
All right.
Like he never lost.
I know. Okay.
I'm saying there's no blueprint to beat him.
All right.
Who's gonna go?
Look, all right. So Beeb's like, nah, I ain't interested. He ain't gonna buy it.
Yeah.
He's gonna text me that day. Like, yeah, I bought it. But we'll see. We'll see about that. But Ohio Runs Boxing are excited for this fight.
No, I'm done with Floyd.
Exhibition. I'm sorry. I should call it exhibition.
Yeah, I'm done with it. But I'll be honest with you. I'm actually from a different perspective. I'm actually happy that Don is getting this opportunity. Floyd has been criticized more when it comes to our culture, the Black community, when it comes to giving those type of guys opportunities on the stage like that. So I'm kind of happy from that perspective that he's given Don that, and I think he felt that pressure. He felt that pressure that he needed to give one of those guys an opportunity just to, and who knows, maybe Don might go back to boxing because he's getting Mayweather, being in the ring with Mayweather, and I think that's what it was. Floyd was under a little bit of pressure when it came to that because there were people talking to him about that. Like, you can give everybody else big paydays, but when it comes to your own, it wasn't nothing near. So that's from that perspective, I can definitely look at it from, okay, I see it, but it's a circus. I don't really get into those, man. I'm not going to watch it, to be honest. So that's it.
Hey, Maestro, 18 have tried and 18 have. I'm trying to keep this straight.
Well,
He's 18-0, brother. He looks older than Mayweather, but I don't know what that's about. But go ahead.
no, I mean his goatee, when I looked it up, is like peppered with gray hairs. I mean, it is what it is. I mean, you can't. I mean, his age is his age, but my main thing about the interest or lack thereof in this fight is we're talking about the O's will go or which O will go, but no O will go because it's an exhibition match. So
That's true.
I
You're
mean,
right about that.
even if Don Moore does like beat him on this helipad, it doesn't mean anything because it's actually not a professional boxing match. So, I mean, I can't be interested in it. I just can't. I'm more interested in Cypress Hill taking on Onyx in the Versus than I am in this fight. And by the way, that's going to be headlining the Kovalev card against Pulev's younger brother on Saturday in LA. So I'm more interested in seeing Be Real rap against Sticky Fingers than I am against this fight. I'm just being honest.
What's his weight class? Is it 140? Is it 147?
I haven't even.
Featherweight. He's a featherweight, brother.
I haven't even looked it up. I mean, it's this is a joke. Like, seriously.
Yo, he never fought a dude with a winning record. Like it's 5-16, 6-14. This is Tommy Fury level.
Now, hey, let me ask y'all a question. Let me ask the panel a question.
Go ahead.
Would y'all be surprised if he actually do get a real fight after this with one of the live dogs?
I would.
No. I mean, I would be surprised because I don't think it's going to happen. I mean, this guy has never fought in a meaningful fight his entire life based on his box rec. And
Moore, I apologize. I thought you meant Mayweather. My bad.
No, and he's old. So with all due respect, I mean,
he's 46 years old.
Yeah,
so
he shouldn't be sanctioned in a fight against somebody. Yeah. Like I wouldn't actually want to see it.
They might give him a Brian Cobb or a
let me tell you something.
No.
There's no blueprint to beat him. He's 18-0. 18 have tried. 18 have failed. Lee Groves, are you excited for? Are you going to fork out money out of your wallet to buy this fight?
No. In a word, no. On the positive side, the pay-per-view price for this is lower than recent Mayweather fights have been. That's positive. But I'll never forget Mayweather's quote before the Logan Paul exhibition. And I quote, "I believe in working smarter, not harder. So if it's something easy like this, a legalized bank robbery, I'm going to do it. I have to do it. My nickname is Money for a reason. I worked extremely hard for years and years to get to a certain level, a level where we can start calling everything an event." And that's all this is. This is an event. If you think you're going to pay the money and see a competitive fight in which both combatants go all out, it's legalized bank robbery. You deserve what you get. But if you tune in for the curiosity factor, the fact of a boxing match on a 700-foot high helipad, maybe somebody will, something bad could happen. I don't know. I hope not. But it's a unique setting. And Floyd Mayweather is there, and he's fighting against a guy who was sort of mentored by Uncle Roger. They've sparred hundreds of rounds against each other. If you're tuning in just to see an event and to see Floyd in the ring again, okay. But just if you're gonna watch it, just know what it is that you're paying for. I'm not gonna pay for it. I'm not gonna watch it.
All right. Look, before I go to Ashy, I think I'm going to support the event. I'll tell you why. I get what people are saying. Oh, well, what's this? Like, Floyd's 44, almost 45 years old. He just wants to have some fun. He's in a box on top of a helipad. Like, I don't know why that intrigues me. Don't ask me why. Like, don't ask for an explanation. Hey, D-Style, elaborate. I don't have anything. I just know it intrigues me. Like, I want to see it. I want to see it live in the flesh. I just want to see a boxing fight on top of that skyscraper, on a helipad, and I think Floyd's gonna knock this dude out probably in a couple rounds. I know it's an exhibition, but either he carries them. I don't know. I'm gonna buy it. I'm gonna support this event. I'm gonna support Floyd, man. All right.
They said Ric Flair might be the referee, so who knows?
What? That's the most random thing I've ever heard.
Ooh.
I don't even know that. Woo, hey, Ashy. Are you gonna fork out some money for this? Are you gonna support this?
No, I'm not going to. I am a fight fan, and Floyd is a Hall of Fame fighter. But we all know he's done in the sport. If we're talking about the upper echelon fighters who continue to do their thing, trying to cement their legacy, Floyd is retired. He's a businessman, and just like any other businessman, you're either going to sell a product or a service. And he happens to sell the service. He's in the business of fighting. This is an exhibition. And just like going inside HEB, that's a supermarket down here for you guys who are not from Texas. Just like going into the supermarket and you see some prune cobbler, you have the option to buy shit or not buy the shit. And I wouldn't buy it, just like I'm not going to buy this particular exhibition, but let's be honest, whatever has Floyd's name attached to it is good business. And you have a market in Dubai who wants to see this guy in person and they're willing to fork over the cash. More power to them. But I personally, I want to see guys who are still chasing their legacy. That's what I'm willing to spend my money on. So no, I'm not buying it. But you know what? I say that, but I could hear my wife saying, I want to see Floyd, and then we end up buying the damn thing anyway. So
I think in the end, half of this panel is going to buy that fight. I think Beeb's going to break at the end. I have a feeling.
You're cracking, Beeb.
He's cracking already. I mean, it is an helipad, right?
The therapy really has been working. I've overcome my pay-per-view. I've overcome my pay-per-view addiction.
And they're looking at you with the emoji covering the face. Like, well,
I want to listen to Onyx, man. I'm a B-boy, standing in my B-boy pants. Come on and give me the microphone so I can bust in my pants.
Whoa.
I want to listen to Onyx on Saturday.
Okay. All right. Look, from one legend to another, Manny Pacquiao. He's losing. He lost the president. He was a distant third, by the way. Shout out to him. Look, he wanted to be president of the Philippines. They didn't vote for him. Okay. I want you guys to be matchmaker for a second. Okay. Now you can tell me what do you think he's going to do, but what would you like him to do? Right? If it's retire and whatever it is, Ohio runs boxing. If he returns, would you like to see him in an exhibition, a fight, maybe an exhibition with Floyd? I don't know, in a helipad or something. Like, what would you like Manny Pacquiao to do?
Man, man, I don't know. That's crazy. Walk away, man. But I don't know if he came back, what would it? Him and Jake Paul. Get Jake Paul in there with Manny. That'll be a lot of money. But no, man. To be honest, I don't know. I don't know if Manny would want to revenge Jeff Horn. Throw a little revenge fight back in for him. A little Jeff Horn, make it a little, sell that as a revenge. Revenge. I want my,
in Australia.
No, they ain't gonna do it in Australia. I don't think so. I think the Philippines. Why not the Philippines? Or
in Australia.
Oh, it probably would be more, but I think he'd be more. He'll probably want a Philippines fight. But I would love to see him fight in the Philippines, to be honest. If gets a touch up, or maybe fight fight Don. He might fight, after Mayweather.
Okay.
What he said, But that's all I can think of, man.
Let me throw this out there before I go to you, Maestro. Look, I would rather he retire and enjoy the fruits of his labor. And he's had a long career. He had a lot of wars. He spent a long portion of his career fighting welterweights. He should retire. But if he wants to be an aferrado and he insists that he wants to fight, right? Like he's like, I'm going to come back. If he insists, I don't care what anybody says, 140 pounds, undisputed, he beats Josh Taylor. And I honestly feel he beats Josh Taylor, and then he can retire after becoming undisputed 140 pounds after a W over Josh Taylor. Some people may say, what the fuck's the matter with you? You're going to get Manny hurt. You're probably, I don't know. I just feel he could win that fight. But that's what I would do. But Maestro, go ahead. What would you like him to do if he insists that he wants to fight?
D-Style, I actually don't disagree with that statement. In fact, I always thought that would have been a better fight for him than the Ugas fight. He was never natural at 147. In fact, during his entire run at 147, Freddie Roach was adamant that he could make 135 pounds. And I believe him because, he was walking around at like 143, 144 during his run at welterweight. Having said that, I don't want to see Manny fight anymore. It was quite sad to see him after the Ugas fight. There were the pictures from the hospital, his wife consoling him. The man's in his mid-40s now. I don't really know that much about his politics, believe it or not. But I cannot imagine him being worse than Ferdinand Marcos Jr. Of the Marcos dynasty, mother obviously being Imelda with the world-famous shoe collection. And these are people that oversaw mass killings, especially targeted towards leftists, which I am proud to count myself amongst. Should I be surprised that they elected somebody like this in the Philippines? No. Duterte was a homicidal maniac, essentially, was overseeing, summary executions led by police death squads for crimes including, being caught with marijuana. So, could Manny have been any worse than that? I don't think so. It would have been nice to see him kind of go from boxer to congressman to, or I should say House of Rep to senator and then to presidency. But right now, I think he needs to focus on, I don't know if he still runs a basketball team or he's still, doing his singing career, or I don't know if he's going to make any more action movies, or there's also MP promotions. He does promote Isaac Pitbull Cruz, as well as the current WBC featherweight champion. So maybe he should focus on that. But no, definitely not boxing. I don't want to see Manny box anymore. To me, he's the most accomplished boxer of my lifetime in terms of, where he started his career and where he finished it in terms of weight classes and all the belts he collected along the way. He should just be able to retire in peace.
What if he tells you, Maestro, I'm going to fight anyway, so give me a fight? Like Maestro Management will set up what fight for him. If he says, I'm going to do it anyway, so.
He put me in the same position that my mother was in, being a huge Ali fan, not wanting to see him go on with his career. And my mom told me when I was a kid how afraid she was for Sugar Ray Leonard and his eye. I mean, there comes a point where, you really gotta worry about the health of the people that you look up to. And I look up to Manny Pacquiao.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
I would just show him a picture, show him videos of Bernard Hopkins falling out the ring. I think he.
Oh man, yeah. Hopkins was 50 though. I mean, hey Ashy, talk to us, brother. If Manny Pacquiao comes back, whether it's exhibition, boxing fight, whatever it is, what would you like to see him do?
Actually, I thought he should have retired 7 years ago after the Mayweather fight. He didn't have anything to prove at that point, and even with the loss, it didn't matter. He already stamped his ticket to the Hall of Fame, and then and he's official legendary status. Long after he's dead, people will know his name and what he's done. I didn't think he would continue fighting at the top level. I picked Keith Thurman to beat him. I thought Thurman would go in there and outbox him. I didn't know Thurman would try to big boy him and get put on his ass and get beat on for that fight. So he proved he could still fight at the top level even then. I don't want to see him fight, man. Like I said, I didn't want to see him fight past Floyd Mayweather. I mean, we're talking about a guy who went through all these divisions. It's not like during his title run, his multiple title run, he was just skating through guys. He's had wars. Even with the big victories over Miguel Cotto. Miguel Cotto was touching him in that fight. Yeah, he got beat, but Miguel Cotto is a puncher. Pacquiao's head had gotten swollen on several occasions, and he's been knocked out flat, planked. So, that is going to take a toll at some point. You can't continue. The human body cannot continue to take this type of punishment, and, you go into your latter years, your grandfather, great-grandfather years with no problems. It's going to catch up. It's just the way it is. It's the way it's always been in the sport. You got guys who are some of the best defensive fighters of all time. Pernell Whitaker. Look how he was speaking. God rest his soul. Look how he spoke in retirement. And we're talking about a guy who didn't get hit often. In fights. I won't say in sparring. You know what I'm saying? But it all takes a toll. So yeah, he lost the presidency. I really don't concern myself with the politics of another country. I really didn't give two shits about any of that. I'm a fight fan. I don't like no politician at all. But, if he's going to come back and he's going to fight, I would prefer him to do exhibitions. I don't want to see him fight the top guys. And knowing Mandy, that's probably who he's going to want to fight. You want to still prove that he can do it, man. It's hard. Bernard Hopkins said it best years ago. The ring retires fighters. So it's going to be on Manny to say I had enough, or somebody to beat the dog shit out of him to prove that he's had enough. And I hope the latter doesn't happen.
Yeah, Hopkins was in line, and I kind of wish he would have just retired as well. But he was in line. Lee Groves, if Manny Pacquiao insists to come back, whether it's a boxing fight, exhibition, like what do you like to see him do?
I agree with all the panelists so far. I would rather him not come back. But really, I think this may be all Manny knows, because coming into the Ugas fight, he had been a professional fighter for 62.3% of his lifetime. That's incredible. He started as a teenager and he went on to age 42. He fought 72 professional fights. He's logged 498 rounds, and he's had wars, as the other panelists have said. He's guaranteed a place. If he stays retired, he's guaranteed a place in the class of 2025 in the International Boxing Hall of Fame. The only way I would see Pacquiao coming back for real is for money, because he's a very charitable guy. He's made millions and millions of dollars, but he's given it to the people. And he may want to do more of that. Don't know whether he could. I think a happy medium for him would be to engage in exhibitions like Julio Cesar Chavez did in Mexico for so many times, do it for charity, do it with headgear, do it with exhibition type rules that, we're just here to put on a show. I don't hurt you. You don't hurt me. We just put on a show for the people. I don't know whether he would want to fight, Marquez. I don't know if Marquez would still want to blast his head off, or De La Hoya, or Mayweather, or anybody like that. But I would rather he stay retired. But if he's going to do it, do exhibitions. Don't get hurt. He's given more than enough for the sport, and I just hope that he and his family will have a happy several decades to come.
Okay. All right. I like that exhibition. I can agree with that. I like that for sure. Hey, B, talk to us, brother. Who do you think, or I'm sorry, what do you think Manny Pacquiao should do, brother?
Manny Pacquiao's all set. He's retired, man. He's got the MP promotions, like Little Penny in the chat said. He's involved in politics.
Or let me rephrase that. If he insists in coming back,
he's not going to come back. I don't think it's not even a question. It's not even a question. He's not coming back.
You don't think he comes back?
He's got his kids fighting now. He's got a lot of things going on.
Okay.
I talked to Mark McSio. He's not coming back.
B, let me ask you a quick question. What if you see him at the table eating some meat with Canelo? Do you think he come back then?
No, he'll never come back.
Hey, we're throwing shots there. We're throwing shots right now. What's going on right now?
Even with the shakes that Freddie used to give him, or
shake jokes, all types of jokes right now.
He's not going to do it.
Hey, let's talk about Zurdo. He's calling out Bivol. He's saying, hey, he can't keep running from me. And now in fairness, he has been calling him out. In fairness, it's not like he really has. And he says he wants revenge for Mexico. He said it made him sad that Canelo lost to Bivol, and he wants to bring revenge for Mexico. All right, talk to us, Ashy. Bivol versus Zurdo. That's a fight you'll be interested in. Do you think Zurdo has a chance to beat him?
Oh, yeah, man. Everybody has a chance in the ring, man. I don't believe in that, this guy has absolutely no chance. I've never subscribed to that theory at all. When you're a professional at the top, everybody can beat each other. It's just the way it is. That's who has the right game plan, who has the better training camp, who has the better seconds in their corner. It's a lot of things that factor into it, but all the top guys can, in fact, beat each other. Now, will it happen is another question, but he's an undefeated guy, 40-some-odd victories. It seemed like after he beat Jesse Hart those 2 times, he went into the depths of obscurity, and he has to basically make himself known to get a big fight. I mean, he was a 68-pounder. He grew out of the weight. He's a 75-pounder. Him making himself known at that weight only makes the 175-pound division that much better to watch, because it needs more top fighters in there. In fact, I think David Benavidez needs to go up there too, because I don't think he can make 168 anymore, to be honest. So, he wants to avenge Mexico. Zurdo, I'm talking about. If Bivol doesn't get the immediate rematch, and, I'm sure he wants to fight, other top fighters, I'd love to see them mix it up. I'd love to see one big tournament at 175 pounds with all the top fighters to see who really is the best there. I don't want to be like some media members and just eeny, meeny, money, mo, and pick a guy and say, oh, that's the best guy. The ring sorts out the facts. So I want to see them get in the ring and make it happen. Heck yeah, I'll see that. Hell yeah, I'll watch that fight.
Okay, all right. Okay. Beeb. Talk to Zurdo, Bivol. What thoughts on Zurdo? He wants this opportunity. He wants to fight Bivol. Do you give Zurdo a shot? Maybe a better shot than Canelo at that.
Well, Zurdo is very tall and long. He's taller and longer than Bivol, and he's got a heavy jab, and it's coming from the southpaw stance. I think he presents challenges. He's not as quick as Bivol, right? Doesn't move as well as Bivol does, but like I said, he's a big, strong guy. He's a little front foot heavy, but he can fight on the inside too, even being as tall as he is. He's got a sneaky little left uppercut on the inside. He's a good body puncher. It's a tough fight. For Bivol, but you would still have to favor Bivol, but it's a fight where he would have to work really hard for the victory. I don't think he would skate past Ramirez like he skated past Canelo, if I'm being honest.
All right, Little Penny says he's a little boring to watch. I mean, hey, effectiveness is effectiveness. But Lee, by the way, in case anybody's wondering, Zurdo, it just means lefty, left-handed. That's all it means. But it sounds great. It sounds like Zorro. You know what I mean? Hey, slight tendencies. I appreciate, brother. Ohio runs boxing. That's my dude. Shout out to ORB. Ohio runs boxing. Lee, Zurdo, he wants revenge for Mexico. He wants that shot against Bivol. Do you give him a shot against Bivol? Oh, you're on mute, brother.
He's tall. He's 6'3". He's taller than Bivol. He's got long arms, and he's left-handed, and he has volume. He is a volume puncher with power. He is going to challenge Bivol like Bivol challenged Canelo. Styles make fights. I've said on Twitter that I think the one of the scenarios that I would love to see play out is for Bivol to fight the winner of Joe Smith and Beterbiev, and the winner of that fight fights Zurdo. And Zurdo has been the forgotten man at 175. And when he's fighting Dominic Breazeale, and I think it's a number 1 versus number 2. It's an eliminator fight. So the winner of that fight, which is going to be, I think, Zurdo, he will be in position to fight for the championship very, very soon. And I think it's going to be against Bivol because I see him beating both Smith and Beterbiev. So, yeah, I think that's probably one of the best fights to make at 175. I'm looking forward to it because the dynamics, I think, match up very well. Southpaw versus orthodox, aggressor versus boxer. But the boxer and the slugger, they're anatomically well. You know, it's going to be the volume is going to make the vault hard. So, yeah, I'd love to see that fight.
Absolutely. Hey, Ohio runs boxing. Talk to us. What do you think?
Well, Lee just sold the fight for me. You know, Lee sold it. I think it'll be a good fight. But he's going about it the wrong way. I mean, he's showing his pride. Mexico, I get it. I remember, you know, I'm from Ohio, so I can relate to these stories. Adrian Broner fought a guy named Mikey Garcia, and I remember Robert Easter, who's taller, who's got the longer reach, was saying he was upset. I'm gonna do this for Broner. I'm gonna do this for Ohio, baby. I'm gonna show you. Mikey got him, man. So, you know, it doesn't mean just because he wants to fight doesn't mean he's gonna win. But it definitely be. I'm interested. I like Zorro. I think he should have got some of these type of fights, man. He's been sitting for a while, man. And Golden Boy just picked him up not too long ago. It's like, how you 40-0 and a lot of people don't know who you is, man. It's like it's crazy. So I do wish it. I want to see him get an opportunity like that, man. I like Zorro, to be honest.
Shout out to Nando telling everybody that there's boxing on the zone right now in the middle of the show. But hey, shout out to you, brother. Nando's that dude too. Hey, Maestro. Dr. Zurdo says he wants revenge for Mexico. Zurdo.
All right, so the first thing is he was obscure for a while at 168 after the Hart wins because he was trying to get out of his deal with Top Rank, who he didn't feel was doing a really good job promoting him. And I mean, I'll leave it up to all of you to decide whether you feel that Top Rank did a good job with Zurdo. I mean, he's a Mexican, undefeated fighter, and I mean, he wasn't exactly a star while fighting under Top Rank. Anyways, he ended up buying himself out of that contract, and has been paying that down with his current fights. And I'm a big fan of his trainer, Julian Chua. I think that, you know, he's a really good trainer, a young trainer. Ben Davidson got a lot of credit as being like the hot new guy in the game for a while, but I think Julian Chua has done a tremendous job with Zurdo Ramirez. And honestly, this is a much more difficult fight for Bivol than Canelo. And I'll tell you why. He had the physical advantages over Canelo, being 6 foot tall and Canelo being barely 5'8". Zurdo is a big light heavyweight. In fact, he was an enormous super middleweight. He's 6'2", and he can absorb punishment, as we saw in both the Gonzalez fight and the Uniesky Gonzalez fight, and also the Sullivan Barrera fight, and others. He's got a pretty good cardio, and he's a good boxer. People think that he's not that great defensively. I've gotten into a lot of debates with my partner Kenny T that I do mano a mano with, because he thinks he eats too many shots. I think that if he feels that he can absorb your power, he's willing to take one to deliver 2, 3, 4, or 5. He's not the first, and he won't be the last that does that. But I like this fight. It should have already happened. They're both affiliated with DAZN, but Bivol did the right thing. He waited it out, and he won the Canelo sweepstakes, although it doesn't necessarily look like he will necessarily win that, because it doesn't appear as if he's been paid, or as if there's a clear path to paying him because of these sanctions, which Joe spoke about earlier today with me, and which I'm going to touch upon again later on tonight. But I like the fight. I like the fight a lot. And I think that he's 50-50 against anyone in the light heavyweight division.
All right. Okay. Ashy. Zurdo wants his shot. He wants revenge for Mexico. He said he was sad when he saw Canelo lose. And he's been calling out Bivol. You give him a shot against Bivol? A decent shot.
You asked me. I think I've already went over that, but
that's right. Yeah, that's right. That's right. Okay, my bad. I already went over that. Okay, that's cool. But I will say this though. I think Bivol has a shot. I'm sorry. I think Zurdo has a shot, but I would favor Bivol. I think Bivol's a little too fast for Zurdo, in my opinion. I think that's the one thing that would go. I shuffled the screen around. Is there anybody that didn't go? We're good? Okay, cool.
Well, you say he's slower than Bivol, but remember Joe Joyce and what's the other guy? Dubois. Sometimes speed ain't everything,
Hey, Joe Joyce had that hammer fist jab going, and it was a brilliant game plan. Like, it worked, and hey, as long as it works, you're good. Boxing Republic says to leave from the Women Crushing the Wednesday crew. Shout out to you. I appreciate it. All right. Let's go ahead and talk about the main thing. You know what I mean? Jermell Charlo versus Castano. This is a rematch at 154 pounds. It is for undisputed at this weight class. I mean, and by the way, the first fight was a great fight to watch. I don't see why this fight is going to be any different. But maybe you guys feel a little different. Who knows? Beeb, who's winning this fight, brother? Break it down for us. Who's winning this fight?
Well, a lot of times we talk about size and we talk about height and reach and how height and reach can be an advantage. But sometimes being short can also be an advantage. And that helps Brian Castano, particularly when he likes to go inside, makes himself a very, very compact target. And if you noticed in that fight, I'm not saying he didn't get hit, but he was getting under a lot of Charlo's shots, and Charlo had a hard time really measuring him with that jab because he gets so low and because he can get up underneath and he moves his head when he comes forward. And he throws that little feint before he jumps in, right? So I think that Stanio's got very, very quick feet, right? I'm not saying Charlo's slow, but he doesn't move as much. He's more he can become more of a stalker sometimes in fights where he just likes to kind of creep up on guys. But Castano's really quick on his feet, and he circles the ring very well. But one of his strengths too is he doesn't use a lot of wasted motion. He moves just far enough out where he can reset, but he's not too far out where he can't transition back into offense quickly enough. Both guys landed some good shots, but surprisingly, Castano hurt Charlo, and I wasn't sure he could do that. I knew that if Charlo hit him, he would buzz him, but he buzzed him, but he didn't really buckle him or wobble him to the point where one of those punches was a fight-changing punch like he did to Tony Harrison. The problem with Tony Harrison is, he's slick, a lot of upper body movement, but he doesn't move a lot with his feet, and he'll stay stationary sometimes too long. And when he's close to Charlo, he'll stand straight up. So he's right there, for a counter right hand from Charlo. Castano is low, and even if you do hit him, more often than not, you're going to hit him on the top of the head. You're not going to really get that sweet spot all the time. It's harder to get that sweet spot against a guy like Castano. Another problem with Charlo, too, for me, is he kind of fights a little bit too wound up, a little too emotional. I think he's a little too emotional for this fight, and he may be overly aggressive, and he may be trying to go for the knockout. He's really talking about, I'm going to knock this guy, I'm knock this guy out. He may get careless in this fight. He may get sloppy, and I don't think Castano will get sloppy in this fight. He seems a little bit more relaxed, right? He seems more calm. I think he's gonna be more apt to stick with the game plan, and I see Castano winning a pretty comprehensive decision here. I'm not gonna say it's gonna be a blowout, but I think he'll win a clear decision this time around, in my opinion. I thought he won the first fight. It was close, but I had him winning 7 rounds to 5. I think he'll win this fight maybe 8 rounds to 4.
8-4. All right, Lee. Who do you got in this fight? What's your prediction? And if you want to break it down a little bit. Hold on, you're muted. Hold on. Go, start over. You're muted.
Oh, I'm sorry. I looking into this fight a little bit, I discovered something interesting. Did you know that 2 of the judges involved in the Bivol Canelo fight also scored the first Charlo Castano fight? Tim Cheatham scored it a draw, while Steve Weisfeld had it 114-113 for Castano. Now, I had it 116-111 for Castano with a 10-8 round in the 10th, which meant I had it 9 rounds to 3 for Castano. I really think that the key to this fight will be how well Castano performs in the early rounds, because his history suggests that if he starts fast, if he establishes momentum in the opening 9 minutes, he tends to stay at that level for the remainder of the fight. There's no real lulls with him. But if Charlo can keep Castano in check early, he'll get the breathing room that he needs to execute his low output, high accuracy game. Based on the numbers, I think from the 5 fights before for each guy, I think that Charlo fought closer to his best history-wise than Castano did. Yet most people thought Castano did enough to win the fight. And based on the fact that the fight is taking place away from Charlo's home state of Texas, I think Castano will get a fairer shake from the judges this time around. And I think he's going to get the decision that he should have gotten in fight 1.
Okay. All right. Maestro, talk to us. Who's going to win this fight, brother?
Well, I don't know who's going to win the fight. I oftentimes don't like making predictions of fights, but I will do a rundown of what I think each fighter needs to do to win. I think that Charlo's going to really need to keep it at a distance, use that jab as best as he can, and invest in a good body attack, because Castano has an engine and really likes to continue to come forward. I don't like to sound like Tim Bradley over and over again here. I mean, he says it every fight, though, that, you want to take the wind out of somebody's sails, you really got to invest in the body. On the other hand, Castano's really got to do more of what he did in the first fight, which is engage in that attack that's based beyond a really stiff jab, work the body as well, mix it up in terms of levels. He did a great job at that. And he also does a great job at attacking while being very, very defensively cautious and mindful at the same time. So honestly, I think one of his most underrated skills is his transition from offense to defense almost seamlessly. The way he's able to throw a jab, throw a right hand, throw a hook, and then be defensively ready while really being in an attacking mode. And the other thing he does very well, too, is that he doesn't really retreat linearly. He retreats at angles. So he's going to have to do a lot more of that, too. I am anticipating a really good fight. And I thought Castano won the first fight. So he didn't get the nod in that. We'll see if it ends up being any different this time in California with a different state jurisdiction running the show.
he might get that California love. You know, I'm saying, you never know. But Ashy, this is I mean, I agree with Maestro. Like, it feels like a 50-50 fight to me. So, how do you see this fight, brother? And do you have someone that you think is going to win this fight?
Well, well, I am in agreement that it is a 50-50 fight. Like I alluded to earlier, all the top guys can beat each other. I stand on that. It's just a lot of times, we get caught up in the odds and stuff like that, and who has the better skills doesn't necessarily translate to a victory. Now, one thing I like about Castano is he is a master of his fighting range. He knows how to find that range. Number two, he knows how to get in position where he can really let off a lot of shots because he likes to be active. He likes to punch with you. He's going to wait for you to dictate, and then he's coming right after you as soon as you let a shot go. He's going to time that first shot, and he's coming in. And that's one of the worst things that happened to Jermell the first time, because he allowed this guy to close the distance, find his range, and let go of shots. Jermell fought the most dumbest fight the first time. I don't know why he's, number one, such a headhunter. Back in the game, he used to be a guy who boxes on the move. It's just when he got with Derrick James and started sparring with Errol, he really found out, hey, I can crack. And so he started going after guys, and that's been his motto ever since, being a knockout artist, trying to knock everybody out. Castano is a guy who's dressed down in defense. He keeps his hand up very high, but with that, the body shots are there. And Jermell is a headhunter. I don't know why he don't take what the fight gives him. But in this particular fight, in this rematch, I'm hoping they had a time to watch the tape. They had time to figure out a good game plan, and Coach James had the opportunity to tell Jermell, you don't have to fight one way. There's multi-facets to your game. You can fight on the move. You can walk a guy down. Find what you're going to do in this fight. Find how you're going to attack this guy. You know what I'm saying? Take what the fight gives you. Don't fight him on his terms. I don't know what exactly he's going to tell him, but I know the things that he was telling him in the first fight were valid and good, and Jermell just didn't do it. Now, in saying that, he did hurt Castano several times in the fight, and he took Castano's Sunday punch, and he fought through it. And I'm talking about he got caught way out of position, chin untucked. He telegraphed a left hook and missed it, and Castano knocked the shit out of him. And if he can survive that, he can survive any punch that's going to happen in the second fight, I believe. But I'm going to go with Jermell. I am being partial. I know the Charlos. I can't have my face on camera saying I'm going against Mel or Maul. You know what I'm saying? They're not going to be able to see me saying that. So at least I can say I am biased. I've been knowing them guys for over 10, 12 years since they had dreadlocks and they were welterweights way back then. You know what I'm saying? So I'm going with Jermell, man. I think he's going to pull it off. Go ahead.
Beeb's a witness. I mean, look, we had them on Rope-A-Dope, but they were just prospects. You know what I mean?
I remember the videos with you in the gym too, talking to them when they were teenagers, man.
Yep.
I remember that.
Yeah.
Yep.
I remember that.
Ohio runs boxing. Tell us who's going to win this fight. You have a fortune. Can tell us who's going to win this fight.
This is definitely a 50-50 fight, and it's one of those fights. Man, I like both of the fighters, so it's kind of hard to watch, man. But I'm a fight fan too. I'm edging Castano because I had him winning the first fight. I think he's going to do some of the things similar to what he did in the last fight. One thing I like about Castano too, he got rocked a couple times, and but he kept coming back, and it reminded me of this scene in Rocky, one of the movies, and I think Creed was talking, and he said, "I won, but I didn't beat him." And he was like, I don't know if y'all remember the scene, and he said, "What's wrong? Why you?" He said, "Let's fight another guy." And he said, "Why you want to fight another guy?" And he said, "You hit that man with everything." And that man kept coming and coming and coming. That is Brian Castano. You hit this man and he keeps coming and coming, and it's a mental thing. One thing about Jermell, I like he doesn't He doesn't fight on his back foot. You can go in the kitchen with him and push him back. He doesn't fight on his back foot. And I noticed that even with Tony Harrison, this is what you do to guys who become punchers, right? You go into that kitchen and you fight them. You push them back. Triple G, you pushed him back. Deontay Wilder, he's up. He was a knockout artist. Tyson Fury, you go in there and you push him back. You go in that kitchen where it's hot, and then you start cooking. I love fighters like that. I'm not intimidated by your power. So when you go in there, you intimidate them because they don't think you're going to be in there. That's the point. That's why I like Castano, because you hit him, he's already in the kitchen. He's ready to exchange. He's ready to try to take you out. And you have to be on the defensive mind. And Jermell had to do that. Jermell looked lost sometimes in that fight. I don't know why people felt like it was a draw. I hope Castano get a fair decision, because I just think he's going to do the same thing. If he even if he gets hurt, Jermell becomes more vulnerable because he opens up more, and Castano can hit you right in between those shots when you think he's in a defense mode and catch you. So like B was saying, he's going to be a little bit anxious. He's going to feel like this is Tony Harrison. I'm going to show them. No, guy, this is not Tony Harrison. You fighting some guy that can be in this kitchen and he loves cooking when it gets hot. Those are guys, and he's got a high motor. Those are guys I love watching in this sport, where they got a high motor, they gas don't run out, and they keep stand on you. He's almost like a Sean Porter. You hit this dude, he wobble, but he's still coming to you. Those are the guys, and if you notice, his energy changed at the end. He wasn't fast to want to fight Castano either. People pay attention. He went from we got to talk to my manager. We got to talk to Al. And when it was when he wanted to fight Hurd, get me Hurd. I want Hurd. He made it known he want Hurd. But when it came to Castano, I've been in this situation in a street fight. I fought a guy, and I beat him the first time, and we got in a real good street fight. I beat him the first time. The second time, he wanted a rematch, and he almost got me. And it could have been close. I'll put it like this. I didn't whoop him, but I tell you this, he wanted a third fight, and I didn't.
Told y'all he was rated.
I didn't want to fight him no more. So that's the mindset. I understood Jermell Charlo when he was talking about I'm gonna ask Al Heyman when he got out that fight with Charlo. I understood it. When you fighting another dog, you don't want to go back in there and fight them.
We don't need that man in our life, baby. Let it go. Let it go.
What would bother me or concern me, I should say, if I was pulling for Charlo in this fight as a fan of his, is his focus on, these allegations that pop up in like YouTube and on social media about Castano being a cheat, about Castano faking the injury. You need to really be focused on training for the best Castano, not be worried about these rumors. He spent a significant portion of that interview that he did with Brian Custer on his podcast talking about stuff that are honestly just baseless accusations. I don't see any reason why Castano wouldn't have wanted the rematch. So why would he be trying to get out of it? That just doesn't make any sense at all. And then, saying that a guy with a bicep issue in reality wouldn't be able to run, like, I've never heard of that. Like, if you have a bicep issue, why shouldn't you be working on cardio? He's like, yeah. He said he had a bicep issue, but look at him doing those, like, the running drill. Like, okay, what is he had a bicep, like, kind of in a brace and was doing, like, running stuff. I don't really see a problem with that. Is he not supposed to try to keep his weight down and be reasonably fit because he had a bicep issue? It makes sense to me. You know what I mean? So I don't really, I didn't like that personally. It told me that his mind's not really in the right space. He should just be focused on getting ready for his fight. I don't know, Joe, I see you nodding your head there, moving back and forth. What did you think about those allegations?
I think you're picking Castano. That's what I think.
Pull
the trigger. Pull the trigger. Just pull the trigger.
I'm going to be honest. Here's my issue, because I've accused other people of it, and I've accused you of it on your own channel and people calling into your show.
Well, I got a lawyer. It's okay.
It's fine. Beeb Industries, you guys got a great legal team.
Got a legal team.
Look, we're all human beings. And when human beings make official predictions on YouTube, I think it biases them in terms of.
You got to fight it. You got to fight it. You got to be strong. You got to be strong.
I'm sorry, but
you got to be strong.
I think that it biases people in their judgment.
You got to be strong. You got to fight it.
Honestly, if you turn in a prediction for a fight, I really don't give a fuck about your scorecard. To be honest,
I picked Canelo to win, and I only gave him 3 rounds. I mean, I had to fight it, right? I had to fight it.
Hey, look, let me tell you something. I picked Josh Taylor to beat Regis Prograis. I scored at 7-5 Prograis.
Hey.
You know what I mean?
Okay.
It's just like that's how I saw it. I thought Prograis won that fight.
I also saw someone pick Ugas to beat Spence and show up on Joe's channel and give Ugas a whole hell of a lot more rounds than I thought were within the realm of possibilities.
You can't name drop people. You can't name drop people.
I didn't name drop anybody.
You can't question.
He didn't mention any names.
That kid didn't bet on the fight. He didn't bet on it.
I might be the only one, but I had Jeff Horn beating Manny Pacquiao.
I had it a draw.
Yeah, I had it a lot close. Let me put it to you this way: I had it a hell of a lot closer than Teddy Atlas did when he was screaming and shouting.
No, but Maestro, Teddy had it close. He had like 4, like 10 rounds. Like
Teddy's the master of the 10 rounds.
Close. Why the hell was he screaming like that?
I'll tell you what. I'll say this. I didn't like how Teddy
when doesn't he scream?
He looked at like Horn in the face and told him, "You don't win this fight." I just thought that was so inappropriate. You know what I mean? This guy just had a fight with Pacquiao.
That's why he's not there anymore.
Well, now he's doing a YouTube show where him and his co-host big up the UFC nonstop in dog boxing. So
yeah, you're right about that.
I mean, that's literally their show. Boxing's corrupt. Boxing's terrible. The UFC is amazing. By the way, we're sponsored by Fight Matrix or whatever it is.
Yeah. All right, so Maestro's picking Castano. So we got 3.
I never said I'm picking any.
We got 1, 2, 3.
Look. Usually, I'm going to be 100% honest with you guys right now. Usually when someone, and look, Ashley will tell you and Beeb will tell you, right? Even Maestro will tell you. When someone doesn't give me a pick, usually I do the whole like, oh, don't write the fans. But honest to God, this is a 50-50 fight. Like, get honest to God is.
Don't let him off the hook, man.
No, like Beeb, I'm picking Castano, but I'm not like confident. Like, I'm not. Like Jermell can knock him out.
So what's the worst thing that can happen? You can be wrong on your pick. No one's telling you to put your mortgage on the fight.
No. Well, what I'm saying is look.
I don't want to guess.
If the fight isn't close, then I'm wrong. Like if Castano goes out there and dominates Jermell, you could say, you know what, this time you were wrong. It wasn't 50-50. I'm telling you, I think it's going to be a close fight. I think it's a fight of your candidate type of fight.
I think it's an 8-4 fight for Castano, in my opinion.
Oh man.
I think he can pull it off too.
His confidence is making me nervous.
But listen, I'm rooting for. I actually root for.
I feel bad saying it in front of Ashley, though. I feel really bad saying it in front of Ashley.
I mean, but Castano, I think Castano is good just for boxing period because he came on the scene. People did not give that man respect. He's another fighter like Bivol, and who is this guy? Never heard of him. They was crowning Jermell to be undisputed before when he got the fight signed. Let's just be honest, and we gotta educate a lot of these guys that don't know the sport. Stop if you don't know the guy. Do some research and learn about him before you just write him off. And Cruz, I said that with Tank and Cruz. People was like, "Oh, we want to see Rolly." I said, "This is a good fight," but you know how the sport is, man.
Yeah, I slept on that fight, Ohio. I slept on that fight. I'm not gonna lie. I slept on it. I had Tank winning at 115 and 113. That was a close ass fight. That could have been a draw.
But it's good for boxing when we get those guys to step up and compete with those guys because they become notable names in our sport.
Hey guys, the conversation will continue on Maestro Boxing. It's Roundtable Overtime. It'll be on in a couple of minutes. I want to remind everybody, make sure you follow Ohio Runs Boxing here on Instagram, on Facebook. It's a great page. I love the memes. It's great stuff, very creative stuff. I have to be very, very honest. It's great stuff, right? I'm glad you came on. I'm happy to have Ash on and Lee Groves as well. It's an honor to have you guys on. I definitely appreciate it. Lee Groves, any final words and anything? Plug in your stuff, brother, so people know where to find your work.
I write for Ring Magazine. I have an article about the upcoming Hall of Fame festivities in the current issue. I write mostly historical pieces on ringtv.com. I've written 2 books, Tales from the Vault, a celebration of 100 boxing closet classics, and a few years ago, Muhammad Ali by the Numbers. I wrote with CompuBox president Bob Canobio. And of course, the podcast that I am on with James Smitty Smith, In This Corner, the podcast. And the next episode is going to air at 2 p.m. Eastern Time on Saturday. And one of our guests is going to be David Benavides. So, and he had some interesting comments about the aftermath of the Canelo, the Bivol versus Canelo fight, and other various subjects. So tune in. I think you'll enjoy the show.
And Ohio Runs Boxing, you're plugging your stuff, brother. Where can people find you?
You can find me on Instagram. I'm on Instagram majority of the time. Facebook, you can find Ohio Run Boxing. My name is Marcus Naw. That's another page. I'm under my regular page. And I'm on YouTube too. I'm gonna start posting and do more videos on there too, man. So but y'all can find me there. I was honored to be on this panel with you guys. I'm glad that I cleared up where Ohio Run Boxing originated, and y'all understand the breakdown of why I say what I say. I appreciate that y'all giving me this platform to be able to speak my opinion, man. Thank you.
Most definitely would like to have you both back on. Ashley, just really quick, brother, any final thoughts?
No, not at all. It was great, chopping it up with you guys. Wherever I go in the world, I take my boxing conversation with me, and not everybody's receptive to the information or, don't know much about the sport to even make it a good dialogue. So anytime I can come on and we all just express our viewpoints on, the various topics, it's a good day for me. So I appreciate it.
Absolutely. Make sure you guys subscribe to Maestro Boxing. The link is in the chat right now. Make sure you go over there. I'll be joining Maestro as well. Shout out to Joe Beeb, Ringside Reporter. You already know. Subscribe. Check out the show on Sunday with him and Eric Lorda. Ohio Stand Up. There, I said it. This is D-Style Boxing. I'm out, guys. Peace out. Keep it boxing.